check it out. That's a post from rapper Stitches, who, when he came into the rap game, he was on a lot of wild stuff or whatever. But as time has went on, I don't even really hear music from him anymore. Not that I'm checking for it, or to keep it real, not too many people are. I'm just trying to be honest, man, except for his devoted fan base or whatever. But we ain't talking about Stitches music, and thank goodness we're not. We're talking about this post that you heard the cries and all that, and he's saying, just think about what it was like for Laken Riley having her head bashed in with a rock. And I'm guessing with everything that's going on because of ICE and the riots and all that stuff on the West Coast, in the political stuff, the controversy about immigration since Trump has been back in office, I guess Stitches is trying to speak out and saying, he supports that. As Laken Riley's death, which we're going to roll some clips here, it was terrible, man. This happened back in, I think, February of 2024. And there was something put into effect after that. The Laken Riley Act, signed into law by President Trump, mandates the detention of illegal immigrants who are accused of certain crimes like theft, burglary, assaulting a police officer, or crimes that result in death or serious bodily harm. The act also allows states to sue the Department of Homeland Security for alleged failures in immigration enforcement. And check it out. Her death did not have to happen, should not. I mean, it's something like this should never happen. That's a fact. It's disgusting, disturbing. That goes without saying. But I'm saying that this guy really should not have been in the country.
Count one, malice murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count two will be vacated as a matter of operation of law. Count three, vacated by operation of law. Count four, vacated by operation of law. Count five, life in prison consecutive to count one. Count six, 20 years to serve consecutive to count five. Count seven will merge with count one. Count eight, 12 months consecutive to count six. Strike that. 12 months, but I don't want it to six. This just should be consecutive. Count nine, 12 months consecutive. Count 10, 5 years consecutive to count six. So that would mean the misdemeanors would come after the felonies. That would be the sentence. Mr. Barr, I will advise you that you have 30 days from today to seek any post-judgment relief in the form of a motion for a new trial or appealing this case directly. If you make a motion for a new trial and that is denied, you have 30 days from that date to file your first appeal, first level of appeal. The court will appoint a lawyer to represent you if you cannot afford one. I'll also advise you that you have 4 years from the date that your conviction becomes final in order to file a habeas corpus petition. Mr. Donnelly, can you tell me, are you all going to be involved in the next stage?
that remains to be seen, but my understanding is that we will remain on at the court's appointment unless relieved by conflict counsel.
All right. And you'll make those
We will
arrangements.
communicate that with Mr. Ibarra and with the court.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Ross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. It's going to take a little. Yeah. Can we take the? Okay, that'll be fine. Can do that.
Everybody remain seated, please.
All right. That will conclude the proceedings.
I don't think it's any surprise. We pretty much saw it coming that Jose Ibarra, the man found guilty for murdering nursing student Laken Riley in Georgia, is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Our Ike Kajachi joining us now, along with Brian Buckmeyer, our legal beagle here at ABC News. I guess, Brian, let's start with you. Hearing the impact statement, I mean, we saw the formality of everything. Look, he was found guilty of murdering her. We saw all the evidence that was presented in court, the video of her jogging, the police video when tips led them to where he was staying. It was pretty clear that he murdered this young nursing student, and he was found guilty on all counts for it as well. So we had a feeling he was going to spend the rest of his life in jail, and he will now. And Brian, hopefully that just brings a little sense of justice to all her loved ones, her best friends, her family members that gave those impact statements talking about how this man changed all of their lives.
Yeah, I join the judge's sentiment when it comes to any sentence or anything the criminal justice system does when someone is so brutally murdered. As an officer of the court, I wish we had the ability to bring back someone who's been lost so we can heal loved ones as they should be. But we don't have that power, and this is the closest we can come to. The closest we can come to bringing justice is making sure that the perpetrator of crimes is sentenced appropriately based on what they have done. And I think the judge was correct in his tenor and his tone of how he handled this case, as well as the sentencing. It's not lost upon me that when you look at the sentence, I know it's very academic in many regards as to the consecutiveness of some of the charges. Life without the possibility of parole, consecutive to life with the possibility of parole. He is, in essence, serving 2 life sentences for the death of one individual with additional years on top of that. I think the judge was intentional in doing that to send a message as to how he truly felt about the heinousness of this crime.
And this murder of Laken Riley really fueled the discussion, the immigration debate, because Ibarra was here in our country illegally. He was an undocumented immigrant. Even the president-elect using the murder of Laken Riley a number of times on the campaign trail, even at the Republican National Convention. So it's not just a sad story of it sounds like a beautiful young Christian woman who was murdered and shouldn't have been. But I think it's going to continue the discussion just about immigration and individuals like Jose.
Yeah, Kira, that's right. This death of Laken Riley and the subsequent trial has essentially been a massive political lightning rod here in this country. And you said it there yourself, the president-elect campaigning on the death of Laken Riley and pointing to the current administration, saying that their laws and what they're calling failed policies contributed to Laken Riley's death. I want to remind you that Ibarra entered this country illegally in 2022, according to law enforcement officials, and he was paroled and released for further processing by ICE. And since that time he entered the country, he was arrested another time. Law enforcement officers saying that he was arrested in 2023 in New York City and charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17, as well as a motor vehicle violation. But it's important to note that although there is very little evidence indicating a connection between immigration and violent crime. This is still something the President-elect Trump, several Republicans on the Hill wanted to essentially plant their flag on and point that to the current Biden administration. And we saw that even as early as President Biden's latest State of the Union address, where Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene infamously interrupted President Biden, forcing him to acknowledge the death of Laken Riley, something that President Biden did by holding up a pin in her during that State of the Union. But it is important to note that all of this vitriol that we're hearing from Republicans and President-elect Trump regarding the policies of the Biden administration, it's important to note that President-elect Trump did force Republicans to essentially tank a bipartisan border security bill that both sides of the aisle said would have essentially addressed border security and immigration issues, Kira.
At the sentencing, like the one correspondent was saying the academia of it and all that. Listen, you got a life with parole, life without parole, plus 20, plus 12 months, just all these different sentences running wild, consecutive on top of each other, as should be. You know what I mean? This guy will never touch down, and I'm sure he'll get dealt with justly in prison, hopefully. But the part of it that's absolutely crazy to me is, you heard it in there, this dude came to the country illegally in 2022 and it sounds like committed multiple crimes and was only here a couple years before he committed this atrocious, disgusting crime. Why didn't they throw him the fuck out the first time around? It makes no sense. It truly is disturbing. And I don't know if, like, you know, was being referenced in what I was reading to you there about like Homeland Security being able to be sued. I hope someone sued them. I mean, that's the shame about it. Like, you heard the political or whatever, the news correspondent guy speaking. I mean, you can't bring people back from the dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they should sue them, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll see some money out of it. But it almost, like, nothing can ever change what happened to this girl, a nursing student that had her whole life ahead of her, in her 20s, out jogging, staying in shape, just living a productive, great life. And this evil sack of garbage who already had been arrested multiple times, being here illegally, it really truly makes no sense. You know, this political immigration stuff, it's not the kind of things I typically get wrapped up in talking about, but when you see a case like this happen, it's just sickening, and it shouldn't have never happened, period, as I stated. But it's just so disgusting and disturbing that the guy was allowed to stay here, and look what he did, man. So like I said, rapper Stitches taking a social network to speak out on his stance in regards to all this immigration stuff. Jump in the comments. Let me know if you followed this case. It truly is heartbreaking, and just your thoughts about it, immigration across the board, the stuff with Trump and everything going on the West Coast. Let's talk about it all. Subscribe to Crime Time Podcast, and I'll get with you guys on the next video.